She dragged my cake outside into the dirt. My brother's 10-year-old daughter, Emma, looked down at it, then up at me with those cold blue eyes. "Eat it right there, Aunt Sarah," she said, pointing at the ruined frosting mixed with mud. "Like the dog you are." The silence that followed was deafening. Then the laughter started. My brother Michael threw his head back and laughed. My mother wiped tears from her eyes, cackling. Even strangers at the party joined in. I stood there, frozen, humiliated. That was the moment everything changed. That was the moment I realized I wasn't their family. I was their audience, their punching bag, their ATM machine. They forgot one crucial detail, though. I was the one paying for the roof over their heads. I was the one keeping their cars on the road. They thought they could laugh at me forever. They were wrong. By morning, their entire world collapsed. And I was the one holding the match. Before we dive into this story, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below telling me where in the world you're watching from. Trust me, you won't want to miss how this ends. The graduation party was supposed to be mine. I had just finished my master's degree in environmental engineering. It took me 6 years of night classes while working full-time. 6 years of studying until 2 a.m, of missing social events, of choosing textbooks over drinks with friends. I was 32 years old, and this degree represented everything I had worked for, everything I had sacrificed for. But when I arrived at my parents' house in Boise, Idaho, I knew immediately it wasn't really about me. The decorations were minimal. A single banner that said, "Congrats graduate," in generic block letters. It was clearly last minute, probably picked up from the dollar store that morning. The folding tables in the backyard were set up for my mother's church friends, not my friends. I hadn't been asked who I wanted to invite. The guest list was entirely my mother's creation. My mother, Carol, was holding court near the grill. She was a small woman with perfectly styled blonde hair and a smile that never quite reached her eyes. She saw me arrive and waved, but didn't come over. "Sarah's here," she announced to the group around her, as if I were a side dish that had just been delivered. "The graduate," she added, and there was something in her tone, something mocking. My brother Michael was standing near the cooler, talking loudly about his new truck. He was 2 years younger than me, but he had always been treated like the golden child. He had dropped out of community college after 1 semester, moved back home, and never left. He worked part-time at a sporting goods store, but mostly he lived off my parents. And me, though I was only just beginning to understand how much. His daughter Emma was 10 years old, blonde like her grandmother, with the same cold calculation in her eyes. She was sitting at one of the tables playing on an iPad. Her mother wasn't there. Michael's ex-wife, Jennifer, had left 3 years ago. She got out. Smart woman. "Hey, Sarah," Michael called out, walking over with a beer in his hand. "Congrats on the... what was it again? Environmental something?" "Environmental engineering," I said quietly. Right. He took a long drink. "So you can tell us how to recycle better now, huh?" He laughed at his own joke. A few people nearby chuckled politely. I forced a smile. This was how it always was. My accomplishments were jokes. My master's degree was reduced to a punchline about recycling. Meanwhile, Michael's new truck, bought with money he didn't have, was parked prominently in the driveway with people admiring it. I walked to the back corner of the yard, where a small folding table held my cake. I had ordered it myself from a local bakery. It was simple, but elegant. White frosting with green and blue decorations, little edible trees, and water droplets to represent my field. The words, "Congratulations, Sarah, master's degree," were written in careful script across the top. I stood there looking at it, feeling the familiar ache, the ache of wanting them to care, wanting them to be proud, wanting them to see me. Nice cake. The voice behind me was my father, David. He was a tall, thin man who had perfected the art of being present while being completely absent. He worked at an auto parts store and came home every night to sit in his recliner in silence. "Thanks, Dad," I said, hoping maybe this would be a moment. Maybe he'd say something real. "Your mother spent a lot on this party," he said instead. You should make sure to thank her. I spent a lot on this party, I thought. But I didn't say it. I never said it. The afternoon wore on. The sun got hotter. People ate burgers and potato salad. My mother told stories that always ended with her as the hero. Michael showed off his truck to anyone who would listen. Emma played on her iPad, occasionally looking up to stare at me with those unsettling eyes. I tried to be invisible. I helped serve food. I refilled drinks. I cleared plates. The helpful daughter. The responsible one. The one who could be counted on to do the work while everyone else enjoyed themselves. As the sun started to set, my mother announced it was time for cake. Everyone gather around, she called out, her voice sing-song. Let's celebrate Sarah's achievement. Achievement. Not accomplishment. Not degree. Achievement. Like I had won a participation trophy. People gathered around the small table where my cake sat. I stood off to the side. My mother made a show of picking up the cake knife. Speech, Sarah, she said, handing me the knife. Tell everyone about your degree. All eyes turned to me. I felt my face flush. I just finished my master's in environmental engineering. It took 6 years of night school while working full-time. I'm really proud of 6 years? My mother interrupted, laughing. Oh, honey, most people finish in 2. But everyone goes at their own pace, I suppose. The crowd tittered. My face burned hotter. What are you going to do with it? Someone asked. It was one of my mother's friends, a woman I'd known my whole life. I'm hoping to work in renewable energy development, I started. So, you're going to save the world? Michael called out from the back, his voice dripping with sarcasm. More laughter. I looked down at the knife in my hand. My knuckles were white from gripping it so hard. I'm just going to try to make a difference, I said quietly. How noble, my mother said, taking the knife back from me. She began cutting the cake. Sarah has always been so serious, even as a child. Never any fun, just books and studying. We always hoped she'd lighten up, maybe meet someone, but she shrugged, handing out plates of cake. My accomplishment, my 6 years of sacrifice, was being handed out on paper plates to people who were openly mocking it. I stood there, invisible again. Emma had wandered over. She was watching me with that calculating look. Mom says you think you're better than us now, she said, loud enough for people nearby to hear. I looked at her, shocked. What? No, Emma, I don't. Yes, you do, she insisted, stepping closer. Mom says you're stuck up. That you moved to Seattle because you think Idaho people are stupid. Emma, that's not true, I said, my voice shaking. I moved to Seattle for work. That's all. You do think you're better. Her voice was getting louder. Michael was watching us now, a small smile on his face. He was enjoying this. You think your degree makes you special. Emma, that's enough, I said, trying to be firm but kind. She was a child after all. This wasn't her fault. This was what she'd been taught. No, Emma said. She looked at her father. He gave her a small nod. Permission. She turned back to me. You're not special, Aunt Sarah. You're just sad and lonely. That's what Grandma says. Sad and lonely with your stupid degree. The words hit me like physical blows. Sad. Lonely. Stupid. I looked around. My mother was watching, wine glass in hand, saying nothing. My father was looking at the ground. Michael was smiling. No one was stopping her. No one was defending me. My cake is better than yours anyway, Emma continued. She was on a roll now, feeding off the attention. She walked over to the table where my cake sat, half-eaten. This cake is stupid. It has trees on it. Trees are stupid? Emma, don't. I started, but she wasn't listening. She grabbed the cake board with both hands. It was a cheap cardboard base, and it bent under her grip. She lifted it. The remaining cake slid slightly. Emma, put that down, I said, my voice firmer now. No. She looked at me, and her eyes were full of something I couldn't name, something learned, something taught. You're stupid, and your cake is stupid. She turned and started walking. She was carrying my cake across the yard, toward the back gate that led to the alley behind my parents' house. "Emma, stop," I called out, following her. A few people laughed nervously. Most just watched. This unexpected entertainment. Emma reached the gate and pushed it open with her foot. The alley behind the house was dirt and gravel, scattered with weeds and trash. She walked into it. I followed, my heart pounding. "Emma, please," I said. "Just give me the cake." She turned to face me. With deliberate, slow movements, she lowered the cake board to the ground. The dirt ground. The remaining cake, my cake with its careful frosting and meaningful decorations, touched the mud and rocks. "There," she said. She looked up at me and smiled. It was my brother's smile, my mother's smile, cold and triumphant. Then she lifted her foot and stomped down on the cake. Her white sneaker smashed into the frosting. She ground her foot in a circle, destroying it completely. Frosting smeared across the dirt. Pieces of cake mixed with mud and gravel. "Eat it right there, Aunt Sarah," she said, her voice clear and loud. She pointed at the mess. "Like the dog you are." Time seemed to stop. I stood there, staring at the ruined cake in the dirt. At this child who had just called me a dog. At the destruction of the one thing that was supposed to be mine. I heard footsteps behind me. The party guests had followed us to the gate. They were standing there, watching, waiting to see what I would do. And then the laughter started. It started with Michael. A loud, braying laugh. Then my mother's high-pitched cackle. Then the others joined in. The whole crowd was laughing. At me, at the cake in the dirt, at Emma's words. I looked at my mother. She was holding her wine glass, laughing so hard she was crying. I looked at my father. He was there, but his eyes were empty. He said nothing. Emma was still standing over the ruined cake, smiling at me. "Eat it," she said again. "Come on, Aunt Sarah. Eat it like the dog you are." More laughter. Harder now. Meaner. Something inside me, something that had been bent and twisted and strained my entire life, finally snapped. It didn't break loudly. It broke in silence. It was the sound of giving up. The sound of finally understanding. They hated me. My family hated me. And nothing I did would ever change that. I looked at Emma one more time. Then at the crowd laughing. Then at the cake, destroyed in the dirt where she'd told me to eat it like an animal. I turned around. I walked past the laughing crowd. I walked through the gate, through the backyard, around the side of the house to the driveway. "Sarah, where are you going?" my mother called out. Her voice wasn't concerned. It was annoyed. "Sarah, don't be so dramatic. Come back. We're not finished." But we were finished. I was finished. I got in my car. I put the key in the ignition. My hands were steady. That surprised me. My hands had never been steadier. I backed out of the driveway. In my rearview mirror, I could see them standing in the yard. My mother had her hands on her hips. Michael was still laughing. Emma was skipping back into the yard, proud of herself. I drove away. I didn't cry. That surprised me too. The drive from Boise to Seattle is about 8 hours. I drove straight through the night. The highway stretched out before me, lit only by my headlights and the occasional passing truck. I didn't turn on the radio. I didn't want music or news or voices. I just wanted silence. My phone was in my purse on the passenger seat. I'd turned it off before I left. I knew what would be waiting there. Messages, voicemails, anger disguised as concern. But I wasn't ready for that yet. Mile after mile, I replayed the scene. Emma's foot crushing my cake into the dirt. Her words, "Like the dog you are." My mother's laughter. The crowd's laughter. The way no one had stopped her. The way no one had defended me. I had spent my entire life trying to earn their love. Trying to be good enough. Smart enough. Successful enough. I had been the perfect daughter. I didn't cause trouble. I got good grades. I went to college. I got my bachelor's degree. Then my master's. I worked hard. I was responsible. I was stable. And they hated me for it. My brother Michael was the opposite. He had dropped out of school. He'd gotten a girl pregnant at 19. He couldn't keep a job. He lived with our parents in his 30s, rent-free. He was a perpetual child, and they loved him for it. Why? Because his failures made them feel needed. His chaos gave them purpose. His dependence validated them. My independence threatened them. My success was a mirror that showed their own stagnation. Every degree I earned was a reminder of what they hadn't done. Every promotion I got was a judgment on their choices. They couldn't stand it, so they tore me down. They made jokes. They minimized my achievements. They taught Emma to mock me. They laughed when she destroyed my cake and called me a dog. The sun was rising as I crossed into Washington State. The sky turned from black to deep blue to pink and gold. The mountains appeared in the distance, dark silhouettes against the morning light. My apartment in Seattle is small. It's a one-bedroom in an older building near Capitol Hill. It's not fancy, but it's mine. Every piece of furniture, every dish, every book. I bought it myself. No one gave me anything. No one helped me move in. It's my space, built by my own hands and my own money. I parked in my building's garage and took the elevator up to the 4th floor. My keys felt heavy in my hand. I unlocked my door and stepped inside. The apartment was exactly as I'd left it. Quiet. Clean. Safe. No laughter echoed in these walls. No mockery lived in these rooms. Just peace. I set my purse down on the small table by the door. I walked to my bedroom window and looked out at the city. Seattle was waking up. People were starting their days, going to coffee shops, heading to work, living their lives. I sat on my bed. I just sat there, staring at nothing, feeling everything. Finally, I picked up my phone. I turned it on. The screen exploded with notifications. 53 missed calls. Michael, Mom, Dad. Michael, Mom, Mom, Mom. 67 text messages. I didn't read most of them. I scrolled to the most recent one. It was in the family group chat. The chat that included me, Michael, Mom, and Dad. The message was from my mother, sent 2 hours ago. After what happened today, your father and I have decided to officially cut ties. We will no longer have contact with Sarah. She has shown her true colors: selfish, dramatic, and disrespectful. Michael agrees. Don't try to contact us. You are no longer welcome in this family. Stay away. I stared at the message. The words blurred slightly. Not from tears. I wasn't crying. Just from exhaustion. Below the message, I saw a small icon. A heart. Michael had reacted to the message with a heart. He loved it. He was celebrating my exile. I waited for the pain. I waited for the devastation. I waited for the part where I broke down and begged them to take me back. It didn't come. Instead, I felt something else. Something cold and clear. Something like relief. They had done what I couldn't do. They had cut the cord. They had given me permission to be free. I looked at my mother's message again. Don't try to contact us. You are no longer welcome in this family. And that quiet voice inside me, the one that had been screaming for years but I'd been ignoring, finally spoke at full volume. Good. I stood up. I walked to my desk and opened my laptop. The screen lit up, showing my background photo of Mount Rainier. I pulled up my financial spreadsheet. I'm meticulous about money. I have to be. Living in Seattle is expensive, and I'm on my own. Rent, utilities, student loans, car payment, groceries, savings. It's all carefully budgeted. But there were 2 other lines in my budget. 2 lines I'd been paying for years. Parents' home repair loan, $525 monthly Michael's truck payment, $680 monthly. I stared at those numbers. $1,205 every single month. Let me explain how this happened. 4 years ago, my parents called me in a panic. There was water damage in their house. The roof was leaking, the walls had mold, and they needed extensive repairs. They needed $25,000. They didn't have it. The bank wouldn't loan it to them. Their credit was terrible. They asked me to co-sign. It's just a signature, Sarah, my mother had said on the phone. You won't have to pay anything. We just need your credit to get approved. I was 28 years old. I had just started my master's program. I was working full-time and going to school at night. I didn't have $25,000, but I had good credit because I was obsessively responsible with money. "Are you sure you can make the payments?" I had asked. "Of course," my father had said, his voice heavy. "We just need to get approved. We'll handle the payments. This is our home, Sarah. We're not going to lose it." So I co-signed. I flew down to Boise, went to the bank, and signed my name. The loan was approved. For the first 3 months, they made the payments. Then they missed one. They called me crying. The bank was threatening them. So I made the payment. "Just this once," they said. "Just to catch up." But it wasn't just once. It was every month. The automatic payment started coming out of my account. $525. Every month. For 4 years. I did the math in my head. 525 x 48 months. $2,200. I had paid for the entire loan. They had paid 3 months. 3. And then there was Michael's truck. 2 years ago, Michael wanted a new truck. His old one had died, and he'd found a beautiful black Silverado at a dealership. $50,000. He had no credit, no down payment, and barely a part-time job. "Sarah, he needs reliable transportation," my mother had said. "He has Emma to think about. What if he breaks down on the highway with her in the car? Would you want that on your conscience?" No, I wouldn't. So I went with him to the dealership. I sat across from the salesman. Michael picked out the truck with all the upgrades. Leather seats, premium sound system, navigation. "I'll make the payments," Michael had promised, shaking my hand. "I swear, Sarah, every month. You won't have to do anything." I signed. The truck drove off the lot. Michael made exactly 0 payments. The first month, the bill came. He claimed he didn't get paid yet. The second month, he said he had unexpected expenses. By the third month, he stopped answering my calls about it. I had to pay it. If I didn't, it would destroy my credit. The truck was in both our names. His default was my default. $680. Every month, for 2 years. 680 x 24, $16,320. Total, $25,200. $16,320. $41,520. $41,520. I had given my family $41,000, and they had just laughed while a 10-year-old girl destroyed my cake and called me a dog. I thought about the Facebook photos from last month. My mother and Michael at a Seahawks game. Premium seats. She'd posted about it. Michael surprised me with amazing seats. Best son ever. I paid for those seats. I paid for that surprise. I thought about Emma's iPad, the newest model. Michael had posted a photo of her opening it for her birthday. Nothing but the best for my princess. I paid for that iPad. I thought about the new patio furniture in my parents' backyard, the furniture I'd sat near while they mocked my degree. I paid for that furniture. Every luxury they enjoyed, I had paid for. And they treated me like trash. The co-signatures weren't just financial agreements. They were chains. As long as I was on those loans, I was tied to them. I had to answer their calls. I had to attend their parties. I had to endure their abuse. Because if I didn't, if I pulled away, they'd stop paying and ruin my credit. It was financial hostage-taking. And I had let it happen. I had stayed because I thought, if I just kept helping, kept giving, kept trying, eventually they would love me. Eventually, they would appreciate me. But they never would. Because they didn't see me as family. They saw me as a resource, a bank, a fool who would pay for their lives while they laughed at her. The anger that filled me wasn't hot. It was ice cold. It was the kind of anger that makes you see clearly for the first time in your life. I opened a new email. I typed in 3 addresses: Mom, Dad, Michael. Subject: financial arrangements. I didn't write, Dear Mom and Dad. I didn't write, I'm hurt by what happened. I didn't mention Emma, or the cake, or the laughter. I wrote exactly 1 sentence. Effective immediately, I am removing myself as co-signer from all loans. Expect notification from the banks within 48 hours. My hand hovered over the send button. This was it. This was the point of no return. Once I did this, They couldn't undo it. There would be no taking it back. I thought about Emma's foot crushing my cake into the dirt. I thought about my mother's message. You are no longer welcome in this family. I clicked send. The email disappeared. Gone. Delivered. I closed my laptop. I walked to my window. The city sparkled below me. Rain was starting to fall. That gentle Seattle rain that washes everything clean. I put my hand on the cold glass and took a deep breath. For the first time in years, it felt like my own breath. Not borrowed. Not owed to anyone. I was free. I slept. I didn't think I would be able to, but I fell asleep within minutes of lying down. It was the deep, dreamless sleep of someone who had finally put down a crushing weight. When I woke up, golden sunlight was streaming through my window. It was 10 a.m. I had slept for 12 hours. My phone was on my nightstand. The screen showed 89 notifications. Missed calls, voicemails, text messages. The screen was practically vibrating with their panic. I picked it up and looked at the lock screen previews. Mom, what does that email mean? Michael, you can't do this. Mom, Sarah, call me immediately. Michael, you're going to ruin my life. Dad, Sarah, your mother is very upset. Please call. Mom, how dare you? Michael, the bank just called me. What did you do? I scrolled through them all. Dozens of messages. Not one apology. Not one, we're sorry about what happened. Not one, we shouldn't have laughed. Just anger. Just panic. Just fear about money. I put the phone on silent and set it face down. I took a long shower, letting the hot water wash away the last residue of yesterday. I got dressed in comfortable clothes, jeans and a soft sweater. I made coffee and eggs. I sat at my small kitchen table and ate slowly, looking out the window at the Seattle skyline. Then I got ready. I put on my best professional outfit, a navy blazer, white blouse, and gray slacks. I pulled my hair back in a neat bun. I looked in the mirror. I looked like someone who was going to do something important. Because I was. I grabbed my purse and a large folder I'd been keeping in my desk drawer. Inside were documents I'd been collecting for years without really knowing why. Emails from my parents about the home repair loan. Bank statements showing the automatic payments coming out of my account. Text message screenshots from Michael promising to make the truck payments. Printed receipts. Everything. I drove to Northwest Community Bank, the bank where both loans were held. It was a mid-sized branch in downtown Seattle. I'd been here before to resolve issues with the payments, to update my address, to refinance my own car loan. The branch manager, Ms. Patricia Chen, knew me by name. Sarah, she said, smiling as I walked into her office. What brings you in today? Patricia was a sharp woman in her 50s with short black hair and kind eyes. Her office was neat and efficient, with photos of her family on the wall. I need to be removed as co-signer on 2 loans, I said, sitting down across from her desk. Her smile faded slightly. That's a complicated process. Usually the primary borrowers need to agree to refinance, or you need to prove financial hardship or fraud. I have proof of misrepresentation, I said. I opened my folder and spread the documents across her desk. She leaned forward, putting on her reading glasses. I talked while she read. I told her everything. About co-signing the loans. About the promises that I wouldn't have to pay. About being the only one making payments for years. About the party. About Emma. About the cake. About being told I was no longer family. Patricia listened. She didn't interrupt. She read every document carefully. She looked at the text messages from Michael promising to pay. She looked at my bank statements showing 4 years of consistent payments. She looked at the email from my mother saying, "This is our home." When I finished, Patricia was quiet for a long moment. She took off her glasses and looked at me. "Sarah," she said, her voice gentle but firm, "this is financial exploitation. They misrepresented the agreements to get your signature, with no intention of honoring their obligations. Can you help me?" I asked. "Yes," she said. She picked up her phone and made 2 calls. She spoke in banking language I only half understood. cosigner release, documented non-payment by primary borrower, misrepresentation at origination, financial abuse. She typed on her computer. She printed forms. She made notes. "This is the release form for the home repair loan," she said, sliding a paper across the desk. "And this one is for the auto loan. I'm filing an immediate dispute on your behalf. Based on this documentation, the bank will remove you from liability on both accounts effective immediately." "What happens to them?" I asked. "They'll be notified that you've been released from the loans. They'll have 30 days to refinance in their own names or provide proof of ability to pay. If they can't, the bank will begin foreclosure proceedings on the home repair loan and repossess the vehicle." "They'll have to actually pay?" "Yes. For the first time, they'll be responsible for the debts they created." I signed my name on both forms. Patricia picked up an official bank stamp. Heavy, serious, final. She pressed it onto an ink pad, then onto each form. Thud. Thud. The sound seemed to echo in the quiet office. It was the sound of chains breaking. It was the sound of freedom. "You're doing the right thing," Patricia said, gathering the papers. "I've worked in banking for 30 years, and I've seen this situation more times than I can count. Family members who exploit the one person responsible enough to have good credit. It's abuse, Sarah. Financial abuse." I stood up. "Thank you, Patricia. You take care of yourself," she said, smiling warmly. "And Sarah? Don't feel guilty. You gave them chance after chance. They made their choices." I walked out of the bank into the cool Seattle afternoon. The sky was that perfect blue that only happens after rain. The air smelled clean. My chest felt light, almost hollow. It was the absence of weight, the absence of obligation. I got to my car and sat in the driver's seat. My phone was still on silent, but I could see the screen lighting up repeatedly. They knew. The bank must have already contacted them. I turned the phone over and turned off silent mode. It immediately started buzzing. "Mom. Call declined. Michael. Call declined. Mom. Call declined. Dad. Call declined." Each time I pressed the red button, it felt a little easier, a little more right. A text came through from Michael. "The bank just called. They said you filed a fraud report. A fraud report. On your own family. You're going to ruin me. I'm going to lose my truck. How am I supposed to work? How am I supposed to take care of Emma? You're destroying a little girl's life because you're mad about a cake." "A fucking cake, Sarah. You're pathetic." I read it twice. The manipulation was so clear. Somehow my refusal to keep paying for his $50,000 truck was me destroying his daughter's life. Somehow, I was the villain because I wouldn't keep being robbed. I didn't respond. I just watched the messages pile up. "Mom. Sarah, call me now. Dad. This is going too far. Michael. I'll never forgive you for this. Mom. You've destroyed this family." I drove home. The Seattle traffic was light for once. I made it back to my apartment in 15 minutes. When I walked in, I felt the safety of my space surround me like a blanket. This was mine. No one here could hurt me. I sat on my couch and finally let myself feel it. Not sadness, not grief. Relief. Pure, overwhelming relief. My phone rang. It was my father. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Dad? Sarah." His voice was strained. "What have you done?" I removed myself from loans I should never have co-signed. You can't just do that." The bank called. They said we have 30 days to refinance the house loan. "Sarah, we can't refinance. Our credit..." "Then you shouldn't have asked me to co-sign 4 years ago. We needed help." "You needed my credit. You didn't need help. You never made a payment. Not one. I've paid over $25,000 for your house." Silence. "And Michael's truck," I continued, my voice steady. "I've paid over $16,000 for a truck I don't even drive. Do you understand that, Dad? I've given you over $40,000. We're family," he said weakly. "Family doesn't laugh when a child destroys your cake and calls you a dog. Family doesn't cut you off and then panic when the money stops. Your mother, she was upset. We all were. You left in the middle of the party. I left because Emma dragged my cake into the dirt and told me to eat it like a dog while everyone laughed, including you. You stood there and said nothing. More silence. You've always been so sensitive, he finally said. And there it was. Even now, faced with the collapse of their financial house of cards, they couldn't apologize, couldn't admit fault. I was too sensitive. It was my fault for having feelings. Goodbye, Dad, I said quietly. Sarah, wait. I hung up. I blocked his number. Then Mom's. Then Michael's. The silence that followed was profound. My phone sat on the coffee table, dark and quiet. No buzzing. No ringing. Just peace. I opened my laptop and looked at my budget spreadsheet. Those two lines, 525 and 680, were still there. I highlighted them both. Delete. The total at the bottom of my budget suddenly showed an extra $1,205 per month. That was my money now. Not theirs. Mine. I created a new line item. My future. I sat back and let out a long breath. For the first time in 4 years, I wasn't paying for people who hated me. For the first time in my life, every dollar I earned was mine to keep. The next few days were quiet. Eerily quiet. I went to work at my environmental engineering firm. I had lunch with colleagues. I went to the gym. I cooked dinner. I read books. I lived my life. My blocked numbers tried calling from other phones. Numbers I didn't recognize. I didn't answer unknown numbers anymore. They left voicemails. I didn't listen to them. On the 5th day, something changed. I came home from work to find a note taped to my apartment door. My heart sank. Someone had gotten into the building. The note was handwritten in my mother's tight, angry script. Sarah, we drove all the way to Seattle to talk sense into you. You won't answer our calls. The bank is taking the house. Michael already lost his truck. They towed it yesterday. Emma cried for hours. This is what you've done. You've made your own niece cry. We're at the coffee shop on the corner. Come down and talk to us like an adult. We're not leaving until you do. Mom. My hands were shaking as I unlocked my door and stepped inside. I locked the deadbolt behind me. They were here, in Seattle, waiting for me. Part of me, the old me, wanted to go down there, wanted to fix it, wanted to make the crying stop, even if the person crying was Emma, who had told me to eat cake in the dirt like a dog. But I knew what would happen. I'd go down there and they'd bully me. They'd cry. They'd guilt me. They'd manipulate me into somehow taking responsibility for this, into co-signing new loans, into helping them one more time. And it would never end. I walked to my window and looked down at the street. I could see the coffee shop from here. Through the windows, I could make out 3 figures sitting at a table. Mom, Dad, and Michael. Waiting. I pulled my curtains closed. I called the building manager. Hi, this is Sarah in 4B. There are some people in the building who I didn't give access to. Family members who I've cut contact with. They left a note on my door. Is there any way to, I don't know, make sure they can't get in again? Absolutely, he said. I'll review the security footage and see how they got in. I'll also alert our evening security. Give me their names? I gave him the names. I felt guilty doing it, like I was tattling. But this was my home. My safe space. They had no right to be here. An hour later, my building phone rang. It was the front desk. Ms. Parker, there are 3 people here asking for you. A Carol, David, and Michael. Please tell them I'm not available and ask them to leave. They're quite insistent. They're saying they're your family and they need to talk to you. Please tell them I don't wish to see them. If they don't leave, I'll need to call the police. A pause. Understood. I waited by my door, listening. I could hear raised voices from the lobby 4 floors below, muffled but angry. My mother's voice, sharp and demanding. The desk attendant's voice, calm and firm. Then silence. I peeked through my door's peephole. The hallway was empty. They were gone. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You called security on your own mother. Your own mother. You are dead to us. Don't ever contact us again. You're not our daughter anymore. I stared at the message. They had driven 8 hours to Seattle to ambush me, had broken into my building, had refused to leave when asked, and somehow I was the villain for having them removed. The mental gymnastics were impressive. I didn't respond. I blocked the number. That night, I barely slept. Every sound in the hallway made me jump. Every car on the street below made me wonder if they were still out there. But morning came, and they were gone. They had driven back to Idaho, probably leaving at 2 or 3 a.m., angry and defeated. The next day at work, my friend Jennifer stopped by my desk. "Hey, Sarah. So, this is awkward, but I think I saw your family on Facebook." My stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" She pulled out her phone and showed me. It was a post from my mother's Facebook page. The post featured an old photo of all of us, me, Michael, Emma, Mom, and Dad, from a Christmas 3 years ago. We all looked happy in the photo. It was a lie, but it looked convincing. The text read, "It is with a broken heart that I share this. Our daughter Sarah has turned her back on her family. After we welcomed her with open arms to celebrate her graduation, she left in anger over a small misunderstanding. Since then, she has filed false reports to have me and her father removed from our home loan, a loan we needed to keep our house. She has also had her brother's car repossessed, leaving him unable to work or care for his daughter, our granddaughter Emma. When we drove 8 hours to Seattle to try to talk to her, to reconcile, she had building security throw us out like criminals. We are devastated. We raised her, loved her, supported her through school, and this is how she repays us, by trying to make her family homeless. We're asking for prayers during this difficult time. If anyone knows Sarah, please encourage her to do the right thing and help her family. Blood is supposed to be thicker than water." The post had 147 comments. I scrolled through them. How awful. Some children just don't appreciate what they have. I always knew there was something off about Sarah. "Praying for you, Carol." Jennifer was watching my face. "I figured there was more to the story," she said quietly. "There's a lot more to the story," I said, my voice tight. "You don't have to tell me, but if you want to talk..." "Thank you," I said. I need a minute." I went to the bathroom and locked myself in a stall. I leaned against the wall and tried to breathe. They were posting about me on social media. They were telling everyone I was the villain. They were making me out to be an ungrateful monster who was destroying her loving family. None of it was true, but none of the people commenting knew that. They only knew my mother's version. The version where she was the victim. I thought about defending myself. I thought about writing my own post. I thought about posting the bank statements, the text messages, the proof that I'd paid $40,000 for them. But who would I be posting it for? My mother's friends, distant relatives in Idaho, people who had already decided I was the villain. I realized something sitting in that bathroom stall. I didn't need to defend myself to people who had already made up their minds. The truth didn't need an audience. I came out of the bathroom and went back to my desk. I opened my email and wrote a short message to my team and my supervisor. "Team, a personal family matter has unfortunately become public on social media. You may see posts about me that are inaccurate. I won't be addressing them publicly, but I wanted you to be aware in case anyone mentions it. I appreciate your professionalism and understanding. Best, Sarah." I hit send. Within an hour, I got responses. My supervisor: "Thank you for letting us know. Focus on your work. We've got your back." My colleague James: "Family stuff is rough. Let me know if you need anything." These people, my coworkers, my Seattle friends, were more supportive than my blood family had ever been. That afternoon, I checked Facebook one more time. The post was gone, completely deleted. I texted Jennifer. The post disappeared. "Did you see?" She replied immediately, "Yeah, I noticed." Some of the comments before it was deleted were getting not good. A few people called her out. One person said something like, "If Sarah co-signed your loans and has been making the payments, that's on you, not her. Your mom must have gotten some pushback." The truth had a way of surfacing, even in a sea of lies. Somebody had seen through it. I put my phone away. I didn't need to see more. The important thing was that it was over. A week later, an official-looking envelope arrived in my mail. It was from Northwest Community Bank. My hands were shaking as I opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper on bank letterhead. Dear Ms. Sarah Parker, this letter confirms that as of June 1st, 2025, you have been fully released from all obligations concerning home repair loan account $4472891 and auto loan account $7829334. Following our investigation, we have concluded that the cosigner agreement was obtained under false pretenses, with clear evidence of misrepresentation by the primary borrowers. You are no longer liable for these debts. This decision is final and legally binding. Your credit report will be updated within 30 days to reflect this release. We wish you the best in your future financial endeavors. Sincerely, Patricia Chen, Branch Manager. I read it 3 times. Fully released. No longer liable. Final and legally binding. It was done. Really, truly done. I sat down on my couch and just held the letter. This piece of paper represented freedom. Real freedom. Not just blocking their numbers or ignoring their messages. This was the system, the legal, official system, saying, you are free. That night, I did something I hadn't done in years. I opened my budget spreadsheet and looked at my Future line. It now had $205 a month going into it. I'd already accumulated over $1,000 in just 1 week. I created a new spreadsheet. I titled it Dreams. Under it I wrote, Emergency Fund, $10,000 down payment for a house, $40,000 master's student loans paid off, $22,000 remaining trip to Iceland, $4,000 new bed, $200 things I could have done with the money I'd given them, things I could do now with money that was mine. I picked up my phone and texted Jennifer. Want to come over? I'm celebrating. Celebrating what? Freedom. She arrived with a bottle of wine and a box of fancy chocolates. We sat on my couch and I told her everything. The whole story. The party, Emma, the cake, the loans, the bank, the apartment ambush, the Facebook post, the letter. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she raised her wine glass. To Sarah, she said, the strongest person I know. We clinked glasses. As I drank, I realized she was right. I was strong. Not because I'd endured abuse, but because I'd finally stood up and said, enough. Months passed. Fall turned to winter. Seattle went gray and rainy, the way it always does. I threw myself into work. I was promoted to senior project manager. I started leading a major renewable energy project, exactly the kind of work I dreamed of doing when I got my master's degree. The money I'd been sending to Idaho was now building my life. My savings account grew. I paid extra on my student loans. I bought a new couch. Small things, but they mattered because they were mine. I built a new kind of family. Jennifer and I had weekly dinners. James from work and I started a hiking group. I joined a book club. These people didn't mock my accomplishments. They celebrated them. They didn't call me sensitive when I had feelings. They listened. On Thanksgiving, instead of flying to Boise to serve food while being insulted, I had dinner at Jennifer's apartment with 8 other friends. We cooked together, laughed, played board games. No one threw food. No one made cutting remarks. It was just nice, normal, healthy. On Christmas, I woke up in my apartment to snow falling softly outside my window. Seattle rarely gets snow, and it was beautiful. I made coffee, sat by the window, and felt peace. My phone buzzed. An unknown number. I almost didn't look, but curiosity got the better of me. It was a text. Sarah, it's Emma. I got a new phone for Christmas. I wanted to say I'm sorry for what I did at your party. I was mean and it wasn't right. I'm older now and I understand better. I miss you. Can we talk? I stared at the message. Emma would be 11 now, almost 12. Old enough to maybe understand what she'd done. Old enough to feel regret. Part of me wanted to respond. She was a child. She'd been taught to treat me that way. It wasn't really her fault. But another part of me, the part that had grown strong over these months, hesitated. Was this really Emma? Or was this my mother, using Emma's phone? Was this a genuine apology? or the first step in another manipulation. And even if it was really Emma, even if she was genuinely sorry, what did I owe her? What did I owe any of them? I thought about that day. Emma's hands on the cake, her foot stomping it into the dirt. Her voice, "Eat it right there, like the dog you are." The laughter that followed. I thought about the years before that. The thousands of small cuts. The mockery. The exploitation. Forgiveness doesn't always mean reconciliation. Sometimes forgiveness is just letting go. Sometimes it's closing the door gently but firmly. I looked out at the snow falling on Seattle. My city, my life. I didn't respond to the text. I simply deleted it. Some doors, once closed, need to stay closed. I stood up and walked to my window. The city stretched out before me, lit up against the dark winter sky. Somewhere out there were people who would love me for who I am, who already did, who didn't need me to earn it or pay for it. I put my hand on the cold glass and whispered to my reflection, "You are enough. You always were." Behind me, my apartment was warm and quiet and safe. My space, my rules, my peace. I turned away from the window and toward my future. And for the first time in my life, that future was entirely my own. The end. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more true stories about family, boundaries, and finding yourself. Drop a comment below and tell me, have you ever had to cut off family for your own well-being? I read every comment. Thanks for watching, and remember, you don't owe anyone access to your peace.